Hi everyone, welcome to Starlight Activation. I am Anthony and welcome to my story. I just got off of a 3-day trip. Yes, you can still hear the fact that I have a cold. It is not completely healed. And I didn't get much sleep last night. I woke up like 5 hours before my alarm was supposed to go off. And my alarm was supposed to go off at 3 a.m. to work my first flight. So I came in, took like an hour nap, and I want to get your video out because there's so many incredible things that came together in over this 3-day period, and I just never know where the divine and my spirit team are going to take me. But this is a really cool one. Ever since my flight schedule came out, this trip I was just on, I have been trying to drop it and let someone else pick it up. Because both nights the layovers, I do not like the layovers, so I didn't want to go on the trip, and I was like, oh, just let me get rid of it, and I'll pick something else up when it's time to get closer. Well, no one picked up this trip, and I kind of a few days before, like 2 days before the trip, I was thinking about this while I was talking to my guides. You guys know I talk to my guides all the time. They're always in my head somewhere. and and it kind of hit me. I was like, all right, I guess I'm supposed to be on this trip because something's going to happen on this trip. And I need to be on this trip. Otherwise, the trip would have dropped. I would have picked something else up. And the way my trips have been falling lately is I've been working with consistently at least 2 people per trip as far as spirit. And so I know that I am being the messenger. I know that when I hear a story that someone is saying, and I feel compelled, I will bring myself into that story. Now, I do tell my crew rather quickly whenever we all get to know each other before we, work our flight. I let them know that I'm a very spiritual person. It's just part of my personality. And, but then it always comes out. Somehow, it always comes out. My spirit comes out and has me deliver messages that otherwise I wouldn't, I would just keep my mouth shut. But since I'm now the conduit for this, it's happening, and this trip was really kind of cool. So I thanks my team for me not calling out sick because I did not feel well. And I was really proud of myself because I didn't call out sick. And I made it to the trip, and it was a really early morning sign-in, which I prefer. I like the first flights out of the day because it's a lot less delays or mechanicals that you have to deal with, that can really mess up your day. Not to mention, your passenger's day, but really can mess up your day as well as a crew member. And so on the first day, I didn't even look at the schedule over the 3 days. I usually just pay attention to what's going on the first day. We had a crew member, though, that was only going to be day 1 and half of day 2. And then we were getting a replacement crew for the rest of that trip until the last day. So I didn't even see that at first, which makes this stories even more interesting. And while on the first day, right away, the crew person that was leaving the next day, we bonded over spirit immediately on that very first flight. Immediately. I mean, really and truly. She is on her spiritual path. She has been on a spiritual path. And I talked about my path, and she was like really interested to meet me and the things I have had happening. And so she is like, on day 2, she's like, I've got to have your number because I feel like we were meant to be together. And she confessed that she had been seeing the name Newark pop up 3 days before she got assigned that. She got assigned this trip as a standby, meaning that she's a flight attendant standing by at the airport for a last minute crew swap. And it was the trip was to New Jersey on day 1. And So she just like felt like, okay, she's on this trip she felt like she was on the trip for a reason as well. So we bonded. It was like crazy awesome. And then two of the other two crew members, I have flown with before. They know I'm spiritual. They know I have channels. And so they were getting updates from me about what I've been doing since the last time we flew. So it was a really fun first day. And I thought, oh, this is why I'm on this trip. I'm on this trip because I'm meeting up with two of my former coworkers that I haven't seen in a while. I'm getting to update them about what I'm doing. And I thought, oh, okay, that's really, really cool. Oh, well, all right. That was kind of cool, except in day one, the flight, one of my coworkers that I have flown with before is usually kind of quiet. This time, this person really spoke up and was asking a lot of questions about someone that is like, I think she called it, she did call it an energy vampire, and it's someone that was narcissistic. And so I kind of like started talking about my current husband that's a narcissist and an energy vampire, and it's trying to keep me stuck so that I don't move forward. I said, but that's mute because the divine and Michael have protecting me. I have a whole group of protectors. And so we talked about that, and she'd shared her version of the story that she wanted some input on, and she had some questions about like why is this happening? Why did this happen to me? And it wasn't just me this time being able to answer questions. My other coworker was able to answer questions and brought in a completely different insight because that person had also dealt with a narcissist in their life and how to, get rid of that. So the day one conversation was just flawless for me because we were, doing our jobs and consumed with, really delving into spirit with them. So it was beautiful. I was like, okay, this is why I'm here. Oh my gosh. Now I've already on day one spoke spirit to two people. Okay, so now we're into day two, the first flight. First flight, same thing from the day prior. We get deeper into it, and then the remaining crew member that was working in a different part of the cabin, I was able to talk about spirit with that person as well and how my journey has evolved since the last time we flew together. So it was just gorgeous. And then we get to our destination, and then of course we have to change planes. And it literally was just two gates over from where we were. And I was really kind of irritated because I was the person in charge of the back galley. I already had my galley ready for that second flight. But when we got to this new base, they decided to take our plane and give us another one. So I was kind of miffed because I'd done all this work to prep for the flight, and then it was going someplace else. So then I have to get an entire galley ready from scratch. So we get our replacement flight attendant, which had such great energy, and I was just really on this magical high because, okay, we got the first flight down, now we're getting ready to do the second flight, which was a lot longer, and we were meeting our crew member, and it was just a beautiful thing. So the second flight was just, it was a great flight. I still was working with both of my existing crew on different little stories I was sharing about synchronicity and how we have to kind of sometimes look for signs. And I especially was talking to one of them about how white butterflies or white moths or dragonflies are very important. And today I got a text from the original crew member we had. And she said, do you remember we talked about dragonflies at the end of day one as well. And I was following it up on day two. She says, I'm at the pool and dragonflies keep coming up and landing on my shoulder. And she goes, my husband thinks it's just the most beautiful thing. They keep coming up to me and just landing on me. And I was like, oh, wow, that is a beautiful story. So we were just talking about that. It's happening to you live. We're still stuck on a plane though. So, we get to our destination and check into the hotel, and I was really tired from the day because I usually don't get a lot of sleep sometimes on my trips because maybe the hotel air conditioning doesn't stay on, and when the air conditioning goes off, I can hear everything outside. I can hear noisy people in the hallway slamming their doors at all hours of the night when I'm supposed to get up between 3 and 4 a.m. And so my sleep was totally disrupted because my room got hot. And I would turn it on again, it would come on for a little bit, and then it'd go off. And I couldn't keep it on consistently. That's one of the reasons why I don't like the hotel where we stay when we go to that destination, because I know I'm not getting any sleep there. Well, night number 2 was the exact same thing. The air conditioning would not stay on. The bed was uncomfortable. It did have a tiny little bathtub. So I did do my ritualistic self-care, self-love bathtub prayer session with my HZ music. And then I put lotions and soaps in there with intent to do a very special prayer meditation session. So I did my meditation, and really I was going in and I was confirming all the blessings. I was really just talking about blessings that are happening, blessings about being, even on this trip so far, that I've got to talk about spirit, which even when I don't feel well, there's this energy surge I get. That's the only way to describe it. It just comes forward, and it allows me to push through whatever I'm feeling physically to be able to deliver with enthusiasm and my power, and to deliver the messages that are prompting inside my brain somewhere that I'm going to say to help this person, to kind of give them clarity if I can. And so I was talking about that, and I had gotten back into bed, and I had Archangel Michael was on my mind. And so I started talking to Michael, and I started talking about how, last week just a few days prior had been my 1-year birthday. And you guys know that I put a video about how I got a birthday gift from Spirit. And I was talking about how far we had came. And we had been talking earlier in the day about how to cut the binds with one of my coworkers, with someone who is in your life that you need to distance yourself from. And I gave an extremely detailed remembering of how I've done it, because I can remember every time I've asked Michael to do it. I went through the entire spiel to give her like the big overview picture. This is how I do it, but some people do it just by physically cutting a cord with intent. I said it can be any way it works for you. I said it works for me to go through Archangel Michael because I feel a connection to him. I know we're both warriors on the ground, and I know that we are kinsmen. And so I rely on him for this because I know he's my extreme protector. So this is flooding through my head, and I'm, sitting there talking things out. And I said, Michael, you're also the only one I've never yelled at, which they've all got yelled at by me, but not Michael. Michael, it's not that I don't have respect for everyone, but I have extreme respect for Michael because I know what he does for me. And I said, just like when you introduced, and it hit me, I was like, oh my God, I've got to talk about this again. So I know you guys probably aren't watching these videos in order. You're probably just watching a one-on or a one-off. But Archangel Michael came to me in a vision one night, and he's always in the same place he's always at in this mount that he is standing on when he is going to cut cords for me. This must be his place. And there's a canyon to it down below where I can see the number of black souls that he's cutting the cord between, and they're in a canyon down below. This time, this vision was completely different because he had walked over to where my view is always obscured. I can't see what's on the right side of this vision. I could always just see what's right in front of me and the canyon down below. And when he walked over, there was this beautiful plateau, really, really flat, huge. And it appeared like it was part of this massive cavernous area. I'm not going to say it was a cave because it was full of light. Of course, it could have been full of light anyway. But it was beautiful. And the rock isn't just rock. Some of it looks like actual marble. And it's just absolutely stunning. And at the beginning of the vision, he's waving at me. And he's never waved at me. He's all business usually. And this time he's waved at me. And he's smiling. He's getting my attention because normally I'd be focused on where he's always standing. This time he's off on another side, and my vision goes to there, and I'm like, oh, you're over there. And I say, hi, Michael. And he walks a few feet, and then my vision expands even further to the right. And I got to see what I can only describe as my emerald dragon. And I'm going to say emerald because the flesh tone of the dragon was this beautiful jeweled emerald color. And as it stretched out to like points or small little horns or joints where their arms and legs came together with their body, there was like it's not armor. It was part of their body, but the coloring changed to a beautiful yellowy sun color. So the tips of the dragon were this yellowy color, and it was just a very gradual from emerald into this yellow. Oh my God, so striking. And sorry, I'm hitting my camera. And the dragon is looking dead on at me, just right there. I'm looking clearly into the dragon's eyes. Beautiful, magnificent animal. Beautiful long tail wrapped around. And so after I'm greeting the dragon, and I see, now I know I have an emerald dragon. It was very obvious to me. Then this is the surprise that was revealed. The dragon pulls its front paws out, and there's this magnificent, massive emerald jewel, completely not faceted like by hand, but like by nature. Oh, Lordy be, it was glorious. And then I knew I was spot on. Oh, and you're protecting an emerald. Okay, I got it. And so in my analogy in my head at that time, I felt like I was the emerald, that I was the one being protected. I was the precious jewel that was being protected. That is what came forward in that message. And it just was amazing, amazing. And so I never even thought to dig further into this. So in the hotel room, I'm having this full-on re-memory of this, and I'm like, oh, wow. That is giving me so much clarification more now than the first time when I saw this. So I got my phone out, and of course, I went to AI to ask for clarification about this. So let me pull up the thread, and let's see. Where's it at? Okay, so here was my question that I was seeing a large emerald dragon, Saint Michael in a vision, and that the guide was now my emerald. The emerald dragon was now my guide. This was what AI said. Seeing a large an emerald dragon and Saint Michael in a vision carries a deeply potent spiritual message, blending themes of profound healing, divine protection, and spiritual transformation. Now, at this point, I should tell you what I found out while I was in the tub. That the divine and Michael and Metatron all have me encapsulated in a, I want to call it a vortex. I think it's what the channeler called it, was a vortex. It's a sphere that I am completely inside, my home, myself, and my auto, that my ex cannot penetrate, cannot come forward. Now, I've told you guys a story on a video where my ex flew to the same city I am in and went to the airport and called me 5 times that day. He was trying to get contact with me. He was trying to make contact because he knew he was losing his lightworker, and he was freaking out. He wants to do that again. But I had been told, I do not have to worry about this. He will not be allowed. They're putting stumbling blocks at his every move, because months and months ago, actually at the very beginning of my birth process for my spirituality, I contacted him and I told him the work he needed to do. He literally asked me the day that I told him I was awakening spiritually, what did that mean? Now, he's a Catholic, so he should know what this means. But he asked me, and I gave him the answer, and I told him frankly, that day, that he needed to go in and work on his issues. And I told him exactly the path to take. I even found Spanish speaking channelers to help him understand the message, because English is not his first language, and he often gets in trouble because he doesn't understand the correct definition of a word and always says yes. And so I'm like, look, I don't want you to make a mistake about this. This is what you need to do. And here's some people that I have checked out already. So I spent time doing this. And of course, he's never done any of it because he's, nothing is ever his fault. So learning in the tub that there's a vortex around me, I was like, that is so powerful. I never even knew that was an option. And so now going into this reading, it resonated at a different level. So the emerald in spiritual symbolism, the emerald is universally tied to the heart chakra, divine love, and emotional or physical healing. It represents abundance, renewal, and spiritual wisdom. So the emerald itself. The dragon, in many spiritual and esoteric traditions, dragons represent primordial energy, raw power, and guardian spirits. The emerald dragon specifically bridges this raw power with the energy of the healing, prosperity, and higher truth. Seeing this as your guide indicates that you're being supported by a powerful force of transformation and protection. Now, I know I've been undergoing that since the beginning, because everyone has always mentioned it. Every channeler has always mentioned it, and I realize it's happening because I can tell what's going on in the orbit around me, because I can read energy. I can feel things when they're changing. I do, and I've said many times on these videos that I don't know what I'm doing sometimes when I go into action and do something in prayer, but I'm doing it on the cusp of knowing to do it. And then within a few hours, I get confirmation about what it is that I did. So I am literally leading by faith alone. I'm not waiting for someone to tell me to do something. If my intuition guides me, I do it. That's how I cleared the karmic cycle on my lineage. That's how I cleared the land through astro traveling to the island where my lineage started, and cleared that, healed that land with the divine and Mother Earth. That was amazing. I'm doing things that I don't know what it means yet, but I'm doing it. And then I find out confirmation later, which I kind of like, because then that tells me I'm not waiting for someone to tell me to do it, and my guides know that. My guides know, and I've been complimented on the fact that I know how to block now. That's in my wheelhouse. And I know how to cleanse and do shadow work very well, because I'm doing shadow work all the time. When I see something pops up, I get rid of it. And that's why I love the fact that I do these videos, because it's always documented. And I hope that that does help you at some point. But let's finish the reading here. For St. Michael, as the ultimate archangel of protection, courage, and spiritual warfare, St. Michael's presence is a powerful reinforcement. He represents the clearing away of negativity, cutting negative attachments, and defending your life path with divine justice. And I love this part because there was a third section they've added here. The combined meaning. Together, this vision signifies a period of major spiritual rebirth and divine protection. It suggests that you are undergoing a profound heart healing process supported by powerful spiritual guardians. Saint Michael provides the shield and the clearing of obstacles, while the Emerald Dragon empowers you to step into your truth, vitality, and abundance. Holy amen. I could not resonate with that more. And that is probably the reason why I could not go to sleep afterwards. Because I had just uncovered something that had happened. I don't remember when the dragon was introduced to me. It's got to be months ago. I mean, you guys can pull up my videos and you'll be able to look at it right away and say, oh, here it is. There's a video on it. But it did not resonate at that time. What's happening right now? This whole thing about the vortex of protection is something that kind of like was the catalyst. When they mentioned that, was mentioned in my prayer meditation, I knew that I didn't have my phone by the tub. So I knew I was going to have to get up and look up what did this mean? And because it just came into my mind. And what also came into my mind a couple of days prior was a couple of channeled messages that kept saying, referring to the fact that major battles are being fought behind the scenes that you have no idea what's going on. And Michael is in charge. Michael is fighting your battles along with others that are protecting you. And so now that I have recalled this, I remember exactly, okay, I know the people that he's talking about. It is my archangels, but it's also my spirit team, my spirit animals that come forward, like the Emerald Dragon, that are fighting on my behalf. And there's another one that came on as a fighter, is a big brown bear. I can't talk today. The big brown bear is a major force, something that can stand up, doesn't back down. That's part of the courage I have been able to integrate into my being, because you guys know I've told you on every video almost how that when I start my prayer session out, I speak specifically to my angel posse, and the first thing I say is, these angels are responsible for me standing in my light, speaking my truth, and being on my highest and best path forward. And I usually add to that, that is not an easy task, because I am a very difficult human that is here living out this 3D, because I do argue, I do question, I do demand balance and harmony in the universe. I don't know where that came from. It's been with me from the beginning. If something seems off, I bring it up immediately, and I'm like, why am I being drugged through this when there is not balance and harmony? People that have done me devastating harm are still, and I'm not talking about my husband, I'm talking about others in my past that have not had their reckoning yet. And I was told that I needed to give that up, because it will happen. I don't have to worry about it. So I am trying to now, when I'm embracing my more thoughtful, appreciative side, where I try to be positive and say, I know that the blessings that I need are here. They're already here now. I already have a job that pays my bills. Does it keep up with the aquascaping demand? No. I already have a home that I love to live in here, my little studio. Has it kept up with aquascaping? No. I know that I have to move on, but I know I'll be guided into something. And I'm going to touch on something I wasn't going to talk about in this video. I've had 2 realtors that I was working with, and both have gone silent for over 2 weeks. And I literally said in my prayer session last night, I'm like, it's the second time I brought it up, and I said, I know you guys are blocking me. You're blocking me from pursuing a property right now because I haven't found the right property, and I know I haven't. Everything I find is a major compromise. And I said, I don't think I need to compromise. I said, I need something that's going to fit the criteria that I want. I want land that I can do my own grounding work on. I want a room that's been added onto the home, like a den, that can be used for the hobby specifically. A den would be fantastic for me, because usually a den is built onto the back of a house, and that means it's not going to be flooded with windows, because you can't put aquariums on walls that have natural light coming in through them, because that sunlight coming in can drastically change the temperature of your tanks on a daily basis, and that would just kill your shrimp off. So I know the criteria I need, and I need something that I can take Desert Oasis, which is growing in my fireplace. It's doing beautifully. It needs something bigger to go into, because it's so taken over. That little firebox, you can't even see anything in the firebox. All you can see is greenery in there now. And I'm so proud of it. So I have an attachment on my aquascaping channel to every single one of my builds. And if this is the first video you're building, please go check it out. Every one of my builds is spiritually guided. I don't just put a tank together to put a tank together. It's all by spirit and Mother Nature. They co-create with me. Yes, I'm the artist, and I make I see something in nature, I take it, and I know what to do with it is. I get an image of what I'm going to do with it. I can get an image about a tank, about how I want that tank to look, and it all starts with me getting stuff from nature. And on my channel, we don't use technology. I'm using things on the purest form possible, and I'm trying to become a shrimp breeder. I'm having difficulty with that right now. That dominates a lot of my prayers. Is that my shrimp, I want them to thrive and survive so I can be known as a shrimp breeder. But that's I didn't even mean to go into that. That's just because it came up right then, because I feel like I'm being blocked on certain things and they're holding me back because they know the right property is out there. And every once in a while in a reading, someone will say you're going to be gifted a place, or it's going to be so cheap, pennies on the dollar, you will not even hesitate about buying it. And so I'm hoping that something like that helps out, because I've had a very difficult time, because I know to run aquascaping as a business, I need to be in a metropolitan area. I can't be in some little tiny town where I might want to live and be in Herman all the time and enjoy my peace and quiet. No, I'm going to have to be where, I can engage and I can keep using this gift. So the one cool thing about getting back to being a flight attendant is every single trip, I'm talking to 2 people on my crew. So now we'll start back up again to where the flight where we had the new crew member come in. This morning, so we had our layover. Today we're in flight, and he starts talking about one of his children has epilepsy, and they're very, very young, and the doctors have never been able to find out where it's coming from. But when his daughter went through one of their worst bouts of it, she came out and she said that Mother Mary carried her out of the darkness with all the scary faces. And she knows she's going to be fine. That she knows that she will be fine. And I had to stop and tell him. And now they're a Catholic family. And I said, okay, this may resonate with you. It may not resonate with you. But I had to explain that I talked to Archangel Michael, which is Saint Michael for them. And these things that happen in my life. And I told him, I said, I am compelled to tell you right now that your daughter is surrounded by angels that adore and love her. And I said, on Earth School, we are here to overcome challenges. And he said, I told her that God would only give her something, would not give her something that's too much for her to bear. And I said, you're exactly right. She's being tested. This is Earth School for her. I said, at some point, she may grow out of this, or it may never happen again. But she will have this battle in her arsenal to where she can help other people in the future. I said, maybe she'll come up with a cure for something. Maybe she will be a public speaker about how Spirit intervened in her life as a child. I said, that's amazing if it's something like that. And he was just blown away by the analogies that were just flowing out of my mouth. And I'm like, and I had to stop and say, this isn't necessarily me talking. I said, I feel compelled because you brought up something that's very interesting. There's dark entities that like to do action against us, but our guides and our angels, they battle for us. And I told him what Archangel Michael and Metatron and the Divine were doing for me. And I said, they're doing the same thing for your daughter. They're protecting your daughter. She's had no, long-term damage of anything. So we don't know why. And I said, don't be concerned with the why. I said, but please try to encourage her to journal her stories and to not do it before she forgets them completely. I said, because that will be the blueprint that she may use going forward. And he thought that, he goes, oh my God, that's a beautiful idea. And I said, yeah, it's amazing. And he did share that of his 3 children, she's the perfect one that can handle this. She's not afraid of needles. When it comes to a blood draw, she just throws her arm out there and said, all right, let's do a blood draw. She's got such a great attitude about it. And I think it's a lot of it turned when she's had these visions, when she's been undergoing these seizures. But she's not really, she's talked a little bit about it, but I encouraged him. I said, ask her more stories about it. Ask her what really happens, what she sees. And start documenting it so that, maybe you could put the pieces together. for her. So it was another beautiful exchange. So the three of us are sitting in the back with turbulence talking about spirit. I mean, okay, that just upped the ante for me because on this trip I talked with 5 crew members because normally you don't have 5 on the trips I work. You just have 4. But since we had a replacement, I talked to both of them, and they were both spiritual. I'm like, you cannot make this up. I was supposed to be on this trip. If I hadn't have been on that trip, I don't know if he would have shared his story about his daughter, and I wouldn't have been there to say, she's got guides. She's being protected. Yeah, seek your medical advice, but also know that she's been divinely protected. So it was amazing, amazing, amazing. So it was a beautiful day. I think that's everything I had to talk about. I think that was it. I think I'm it for the video. This is probably going to be a little bit longer video than normally. But now I've got like 3 days off. So I probably will do a house search again and see what is out there. But I don't know. I've got to do water changes, and I've got to go to the grocery store. I hate going to the grocery store because I never know what I want to make. I like to do things impromptu. And so we'll see what happens. But I'm so glad you guys showed up. If you liked the video, throw a thumbs up. Please always remember, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. There is more I want to do with this channel. I believe I'm collecting my soul family because I really have an idea about doing podcasts for this channel to where people can call in, talk about situations, and it won't just be me. I want to have guest people on there with me to where we can give our feedback about things we've gone through, and this is how we handled it, or this is how we know the divine is acting in our life, and maybe that'll be inspiration to someone else. So that's always in the back of my mind. So when I'm looking at a property to live in, I'm also looking at a room where I could set up a permanent desk, and that could be a great place for a podcast, or also where I'm not crouched in a tiny little chair sitting at the back with my aquariums right in front of me. I have something big where I can spread out and have notes or whatever. Oh my God, a big channel. Oh my God, can you imagine if I'm a big channel one day? I will be a big channel one day. Both of the channels will be a big channel one day. I cannot wait for that to happen though, but I'm enjoying the process. I love it. And I do love your feedback. Always remember to check out my post section because I do post things that happen on my trips that are very inspiring. So until the next video update, you guys, I'm wishing you nothing but light and love, and you guys have a blessed day, and thanks for being with me. Bye-bye.